In a matter of hours, Donald Trump and Joe Biden will face off in their second and final presidential debate. And this time, there will be a mute button to prevent interruptions. The president continues to trail Mr. Biden in the polls, despite campaigning aggressively with multiple rallies every day. Joining us from Washington, D.C. is Simon Marks. Good morning, Simon. How have these two men been preparing for this face-off?
Well, one is preparing by being hunkered down at home in Wilmington, Delaware, of course, the home of former Vice President Joe Biden. He spent several days now off the road, we believe, his head buried in briefing books, preparing for this second debate, which will be taking place at around 9 o'clock in the morning, Friday, Singapore time. His opponent in the election, President Trump, has prepared for the debate by continuing to campaign. In fact, newspaper reports here indicate that the president hasn't engaged in a single formal or informal debate preparation session behind the scenes at the White House. He firmly believes that he's ready to go and that the best way that he can practice for these debates is to continue barnstorming the battleground states and making his case to voters. So that would suggest that we're going to see a very similar approach to this debate that President Trump took to the first debate. And you know, that mute button is only going to be applied during the candidates' opening statements every time the topics change. So it's a 90-minute commercial-free event, but the microphones will be open and unmuted for 66 minutes of that 90 minutes. So every possibility that this becomes, once again, another pretty unedifying experience for American voters, especially since this time round we know that President Trump is going directly to accuse Joe Biden of leading an organised crime family, a new cadence that he began articulating on the campaign trail just within the last week.
Yeah, that may be something he wants to bring up, but there are specific topics for discussion. Now, talk us through them, Simon, what this debate, what we can expect from it and how it will play out and the topics that will be discussed.
Yeah, there are specific topics, and the White House isn't happy about that either, because they say they thought this debate was going to be all about foreign and international policy. In fact, it's once again a very wide-ranging series of topics that have been selected by the moderator, just as we saw with the first debate. And the president, by the way, has been attacking the moderator already, Kristen Welker of NBC News. Fighting COVID-19 is the first topic. Then we'll move on to American families, which seems like a very broad subject to discuss. Race in America. There will then be 15 minutes on climate change, 15 minutes on national security. That'll be the foreign policy bit of the debate. And the final 15 minutes will address leadership. So another wide-ranging series of topics to squeeze into 90 minutes and every opportunity that once those microphones are unmuted after the first 2-minute statements that each candidate will get to give in response to the initial question, that we are going to see some very substantial fireworks all over again.
Simon, we want to get your take as well on this potential arms sale to Taiwan. China's not too happy about it. How important is it to the Trump campaign, though?
Well, I think it's important to the Trump administration, Dawn, as opposed to the Trump campaign. I mean, in terms of the Trump administration's broader policy towards China and indicating that a page has now turned, and even if Joe Biden wins the election, he as president will not be able to revert to the former chapter in bilateral relations between the US and China. In that sense, this arms sale is very important, coming as it does after a whole series of unprecedented high-level visits officially to Taiwan by figures from within the Trump administration. Now, certainly President Trump, I'm sure, in the national security section of tonight's debate, will once again renew his attack on China, claim that China deliberately targeted the United States with the coronavirus. But whether he gets into the nitty-gritty of communicating with the American voters about Taiwanese arms sales, I think is somewhat unlikely. It's much more important in terms of the foreign policy legacy that he's hoping to establish here, that he hopes will result in a completely changed relationship with China that no longer assumes that you can coax China into the world of responsible liberal democracies.
All right, Simon, thank you.
Thanks for that update. Simon Marks speaking to us from Washington, D.C.